Leather glove, no secret. Buckles on the jacket, it's elite.
Time to talk about the Denver Nuggets, who, as for my standards, and for a lot of people's standards, honestly, they've been a bit disappointing this year. They're currently 20-15, putting them at 7th in the Western Conference. A brief season review, it's been defined by individual excellence with team-wide disappointment. Jokic and Murray are having the best statistical years of their careers. Michael Porter Jr. is also coming into his own as a third option, but it's not translating to wins in the W column. They were below 500 for the first quarter of the year. Outside of the playoff picture, their defense was atrocious, but they've got back into their groove recently. Their top performers have obviously been Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, their dynamic duo. Jokic is MVP caliber this year. 27 points, 11 rebounds, 8.5 assists on 57% from the field and 42% from three. As I continue to name the percentages that these players are rattling off, the efficiency from three-point land for a lot of these guys is just insane. This is the best scoring rate of Jokic's career. He's finally being more aggressive in the regular season. He normally saves his scoring up until the playoffs. In the regular season, in the past couple years, he's averaged around 19 or 20 points per game. That's really been where he's capped out. But he's been a lot more aggressive this year, putting the ball in the hoop while facilitating at the same elite clip that he's done so in his career thus far. So hats off to him for that. He's a solid low post defender because even with his lost weight, he's still solid enough to bump bodies against the center and not let him get that great position on the ball and off of it. He's never been an elite rim protector, and he'll never really be that just because he's limited. But he's still disruptive, averaging 1.7 steals at the center position is ridiculous. He's always gotten a lot of steals, but 1.7, that's a career high. And a lot of that comes in the post. When there's an entry pass, he's always able, or not always, but a lot of times he's able to savvily disrupt the pass before it gets to the low post player, or some on-ball steals in the post, slapping the ball out of the hands of the center before he goes up with a post hook or something. That's Jokic's value as a disruptor. It's not going to really be blocked shots. It's going to be savvy steals that he's been getting at the best rate in his entire career. Jokic has been MVP caliber. He'd probably be one of the front runners for the award if the Nuggets could be like a top 3 seed in the West, but that just hasn't been the case. For Jamal Murray, he's averaging 22 points, 4.5 assists, 48.5% from the field, and 40% from three. He's continued off of his ridiculous efficiency in the bubble, and he's having the best offensive regular season of his career. He's getting offense in similar ways that he's been doing thus far in his career with the Nuggets, with Jokic. Handoffs with Jokic, inverted pick and rolls with Jokic, regular pick and rolls with Jokic, in which I say inverted when Jokic has the ball and Murray sets the screen, and they also run traditional pick and rolls as well. And he's scoring off of isolation situations as well. Some notable additions to his game: he's going to the post a bit more. I'm not saying that he's like a constant low post threat, but he does get more post-up touches this year. A guard getting some post-up touches, that's something to take note of. And he's been able to do so because he's added some muscle over the past calendar year, so he can bang bodies with point guards, especially because he can have a size advantage in terms of weight over a lot of point guards in the league. And then probably the most impressive addition to his game, it's been his rate of a finisher at the rim. He's always been an adept finisher, but this year he's taken it to another level. It was on full display in the bubble with his acrobatic finishes around Rudy Gobert, around Anthony Davis and LeBron in the Western Conference Finals, but he's continued on it this season. You're not going to believe me when I say this, but at the 0 to 3 feet range, his field goal percentage is 87.7. Go ahead, go on Basketball Reference if you want, if you don't believe me, but this is the rate that he's finishing at 0 to 3 feet. 87.7. Mitchell Robinson doesn't even finish at that range, at that high level. Most centers that are like the Mitchell Robinson type that just finish in pick and rolls and putbacks and whatnot, like the easy shot attempts, they cap out at 71% from 0 to 3 feet. This is a guard, a 6'4 guard, finishing at a 87.7% clip from 0 to 3 feet. It's insane, and it speaks to the constant improvement of Jamal Murray at the offensive end. He was kind of known as just this shot creator who was going to thrive on the perimeter when he came into the league, but he's turned into a high-level finisher. as the numbers suggest. So shout out to Murray for that. Now I want to move into the notable supporting cast. Starting with Michael Porter Jr., he's averaging 14 points per game, 7 rebounds on about 49% from the field and 41% from 3. He's scoring very efficiently. These are great marks of efficiency for a wing player, but I had honestly thought he'd be more a part of the big three with Jokic and Murray instead of just being the best scorer of the supporting cast. And I thought he'd have a bit more of a longer leash on offense, because as of now he's still kind of just playing off of Denver's playmakers, off of Jokic, Murray, Monte Morris. He's just kind of just fitting into the offense and scoring within the flow of the offense. So he's not really getting that long leash on offense that I expected him to come into. He's kind of just playing off of everybody, cutting. He's good at attacking the offensive glass as well and getting some putbacks there, but I just thought he'd be more of a focal point this season, and I was wrong. So he's just more of an off-ball scorer, which is fine. He'll be efficient, but for him to really be a third option, he'll need to be given more freedom to showcase the offensive skill set that he displayed in high school that made him a #1 recruit. Defensively, he still struggled at times, similar to last year. That was the main critique of MPJ, why he couldn't get that many minutes, but he's making some strides this season, so much so that Malone is more comfortable having him in closing lineups, so that's a good sign. For Paul Millsap, he's averaging 10 points, 5 rebounds, great efficiency, 52% from the field, 40% from 3. He's continued off of his efficient shooting from last season, but I don't think he's a very versatile defender any longer. He's just older. He can't really move the speed as much. He's always been the 6'8" dude playing power forward, and he's thrived at that because of his muscle and athleticism and just defensive prowess. But as he gets older, his athleticism continues to fade, and that athleticism can't really make up for his lack of height anymore as much as it has been in prior years. So I don't think he's any longer a great defender. He's probably just average or above average because of his experience and intellect on that end. And he's also been injured for the past 10 games or so the Nuggets have tried or had to try to weather the storm without him. I want to move to the team as a whole. Offensive rating, they're 4th. Their offense has never been the issue. It's always been their defense. That's always been the thing to really let them down. They're 14th in defensive rating at the moment going into the All-Star break. I guess you could say their defense has been impacted a bit with the loss of Jeremy Grant, who was their most versatile defender. Like I said, Paul Millsap is only an average defender nowadays. Jokic, like I said, he's disruptive and he's underrated as a defender, but he's limited, mainly due to his athleticism. Murray's improved, though. The Nuggets just don't really have that many real defensive stoppers. Gary Harris is their best defender, and he's a pretty good on-ball defender, I'd say, but he's not really someone who is feared as a defender. He's not somebody who can really carry a defense, similar to how Jimmy Butler or Ben Simmons, these two perimeter-oriented players, can carry your defense. Having a mediocre defense kind of limits how far the Nuggets can go in the postseason, where all this is really going to lead up to. And I don't really know if their offense is great enough to make up for a mediocre defense, but only time will tell, honestly. But for them to have a mediocre defense without having that many elite or just one great defender on the team getting rotational minutes, for them to have a mediocre defense, it kind of speaks to their team defense being on a string. And Mike Malone, I think he prides himself as a defensive head coach, and that's always a focal point for him. So he's lost a lot of hairs trying to get this defense for Denver clicking, but I think it's a pretty good sign that without that much defensive personnel, that the Nuggets can basically have a slightly above average defense. Some miscellaneous notable team stats. They're 6th best in opposing 3-point percentage, and they give up the 11th fewest points in the paint. So they're pretty good at defending the 3 and solid at protecting the rim and preventing paint penetration. This just speaks to the fact that the Nuggets team defense is pretty good. Players just honestly cook the Nuggets one-on-one. Players are confident in scoring over Jamal Murray, Will Barton, Michael Porter Jr. blowing by those guys or drawing fouls and getting to the rim because they can beat their primary defender. Another notable thing is that they have the 5th strongest schedule going into the All-Star break. So they've had one of the toughest schedules in the league, but they're solidly over 500 and are hitting their stride, or hit their stride as of late going into the All-Star break. So with a softer schedule for the latter half of the season, maybe we can expect the Nuggets to jump in the standings in the Western Conference. Let's dive into strengths and weaknesses. Offensive depth. They have a plethora of playmakers and shot creators in the starting lineup and off the bench. Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are adept at creating their own shot. Jamal Murray is a good playmaker. Jokic is one of the best playmakers in the league. Will Barton can come in and get his own shot off the bench. You got Monte Morris and Campazzo. I forget his name, but those are really good playmakers to have coming off the bench for you. So they just have a lot of players that can create their own shot and create players for the rest of the team. And then another big thing for them is their offensive versatility. They have so many different ways for them to create offense. They're pretty much afforded that premium by having such a unique superstar of Nikola Jokic. He's able to create his own shot in the post, of course. He can handle the ball like a guard on the perimeter. He can handle the ball at the elbow and direct traffic like he's Tom Brady in the pocket. So him by himself provides the team with a lot of different ways of scoring. He can run a pick and roll himself. He can run a lot of handoffs. He can set screens and pop, set screens and roll. Jamal Murray is a definitive 3-level scorer. Michael Porter Jr. provides a lot of off-ball scoring. Like I said, they have a lot of guys that can create offense for others. So Denver is one of those teams that has so many ways of scoring that offensive versatility is a definite plus for them. Now we get into weaknesses. I alluded to this earlier. Individual defense, because the team is devoid of a real elite on-ball defender. Like I said, Gary Harris is good to great, but not really elite. And then outside of that, there's not really that many plus defenders. This is going to be troublesome against teams with multiple high-level scorers, because a team with a good collective defense, like the Denver Nuggets have and are, and a team that has a good defensive coach, like Mike Malone, they can scheme against teams built around one elite-level offensive weapon. It's harder to do so against teams with 2 or 3, and the elite teams in the Western Conference have at least 2. In terms of rumors, what can Denver add in the trade market? If they wanted to add some impactful big defenders, they could do so with Aaron Gordon or Lonzo Ball. I've seen those 2 players linked to Denver in rumors. Lonzo Ball, maybe earlier in the season, if he was playing like he was earlier in the season, New Orleans would be more likely to trade him away. But he's really hit a stride as of late, and I don't really know if that affects the Pelicans not really being willing to give him away, though they might just want to give him away because they don't want to pay him that much money. So we'll pay attention to that. And then Aaron Gordon, similar to what I said about Vucevic going to the Celtics, I don't know if the Magic want to just offload their ready now talent, because the Magic just like staying relevant. So if they wanted to add another great scorer, I've seen players like DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Bradley Beal linked to them. For DeRozan, I don't know if the Spurs want to trade him, because they're another team who want to stay relevant. They don't really tank, and they're exceeding all expectations, and they're being driven by DeMar DeRozan, who in my opinion is having an all-star caliber year, even though he wasn't selected to the team. Zach LaVine, I don't think the Bulls will trade him away, even though they're not really in the playoff picture. He's hit another level as a scorer, so they might want to retain him a bit more. And then Bradley Beal, that's just a different situation. It really just depends on what the Wizards want to do. Beal wants to stay in Washington. I don't know what Washington thinks about Beal, so projecting forward, I think the Nuggets will finish in the 5th seed because their strength of schedule is down for the latter part of the year. So I think that will help them a bit. But I do think they'll get bounced in the second round this year, just because teams like the Clippers, they got better, and I don't really see them losing to Denver in a playoff series twice in a row. Same thing for Utah. They got better as well without even making that many additions, but they got better. Obviously, they're the number 1 seed. I think the Lakers are better than the Nuggets, so I think all 3 of those teams will take out the Nuggets in the second round. Right now, I think the Nuggets are kind of at a ceiling, and they really need to do something to break out of that ceiling. The Nuggets had a somewhat disappointing start to their season, but are picking it up as of late. Their offense is high-powered and their defense is passable, and Jokic's level of play is MVP caliber. His play has kept Denver afloat amidst one of the league's toughest schedules. If he and Jamal Murray can continue to lead their offense-heavy attack with an easier schedule remaining in the second part of the season, I think the Nuggets can finish in the 5th seed, closer to where they were projected coming into this season.
Take it this way.